So this session, you'll notice what's absent from here is the word caps, and even the title is a little bit different, but the key is around observability. And if you've been looking at the things that I've been doing quite recently or talking about, you see me, referencing observability, NL Web, agent to agent, and also MCP, Model Context Protocol. So you may also, at the start of the session, heard me and Paulo joking about, this is planning season, and we're busy writing docs to figure out, not really figure out, but to lay down what we're going to be doing for next semester, because our fiscal year ends basically in a few days. So this is what I'm going to be working on next semester. The semester is 6 months. So between now and the end of the year, this is going to be a large focus of my life here at Microsoft. And I'm in the middle right now of actually creating that paper and circulating that paper and actually getting ready to talk to customers about observability. When I did demos before in terms of CAPS, Copilot agent plugins, and also other semantic kernel, the things that are usually missing from that is how do you know what's going on behind the scenes? And a lot of the things that we hear from our customers as well is we want to see, inside the black box. We want to, get more insight into what we're doing at design time and so on and so forth. So the key to today's session is going to be enhancing your web experiences, which could be your Gen AI experiences, with observability. The link that I provided is actually an intake form that I'm using to collect these feedback, because as I said, this is early days. And the one thing we don't want to do is build in the blind and just build what we think people want. We want to be able to actually build the things that customers are going to use in order to make sure that everyone is successful in this. And if you haven't connected with me before, you can connect with me that way on LinkedIn, and I do have a ton of videos also on YouTube. Now, this is a working deck. I'm using it. I'm going to be presenting this in a few, I guess maybe in 2 or 3 weeks to our team, and not all of the sections are there. But I, made it into a place where I can actually share it with you. So we're going to go through some conversation about the different personas that are going to be here, and I'm going to go straight to demo. And I know we may have a large one, it's like 100 and some odd people here today, so we can't do one-on-one questions. But I'm going to actually tease up some things. I encourage you to put things in chat as well, so that, if you have questions, and I see if I can answer some of those at the end. But really what I want you to do today is just open your mind, whether you are a developer, and developer, in two sense, either a low-code developer, a no-code developer, or a professional developer. As long as you're building agents, I'm using that word developer, holistically. Or whether you're an administrator, you're an IT pro, and you're responsible for tenants and, how well things are running. Or if you are a product manager like myself or do product features, this is for you. So the first thing I want to anchor on is what problem are we trying to solve? And where are the benefits? Where's the value? And again, 3 personas. The developer is the first persona I want to talk about, because I'm in the developer experiences group of Microsoft Copilot Accessibility. So one of the things that you want to have as a developer, as you're either designing or after you've basically pushed a product, is a few things. This is not exhaustive, but these are basically the big top items. You want to identify performance bottlenecks. The last thing you want to do is to build something that is not performant and is going to create a bad experience. So you want to find if there's slow spans, periods of work, and especially if you're working in Gen AI, when you're whether you're working on a text coming in and doing some embedding, or you're doing a chat completion. You remember, this is non-deterministic. You not necessarily have an idea of what's coming back, but you don't know how verbose it's going to be. You don't know what's going to come back in terms of content length. So you need to make sure that you're always tuning for performance. You may also want end-to-end tracing, and this is something that's missing even at a segment layer. Let's say that you're building something and it's all encapsulated within your experience. That could be where you may want to have an end-to-end tracing, but you have full control over that. But as we move into an MCP world, as we move into an A-to-A world, agent-to-agent world, you may be a part of a pipeline where you're accepting something coming in and you're pushing something out, and you're all working together because you're all exposing tools. And you want to basically have, exposing yourself as tools, whether it's an MCP or not. Did I hear someone talking? Okay. And you may also want to do optimization strategies as well. So again, the fact that this is non-deterministic, you may notice that the chat completion takes a while. So do you employ some type of Redis caching for things that are commonly asked items to make sure that the response is quicker? So that's as a developer. The next thing you need to think about is, did I go too far? Hold on. No. Okay, so I'm one. Next thing you want to think about is as a product manager and get PM insight. So this is the role that I wear, right? So the thing that I want to think about as a PM is, usage analysis and trends that are out there. What does adoption look like? Is this feature that we're pushing out actually working? Our customers using it? Is it really landing? If it's not, then find out why and iterate to make it land. You want to see success and failure rates as well. That's certainly going to be extremely important, because as you bring things out to market, you may have all the ideas in the world of what you think is going to be. But again, something being non-deterministic, it may take turns. And as people are building things on top of these platforms, they may have different ideas than what you had. And you may also want to look at, error trend prioritization. Look at your trends and prioritize bug fixes. This is just something that you do as a PM. There's not going to be a time where you're going to have an empty backlog. There's always going to be a backlog, and you need to make decisions in terms of what you want to prioritize. And then move to the next one. And as an administrator, the things that are going to be important to you are, as developers are building these solutions and they're putting things inside your tenant for them to work, then, what are the uptimes and what are the error rates tracking? Over time, how, what does this look like? You want to also, in case something has happened, you want to also have an alert, especially around performance issues, because one erroneous item can actually bring down the experience for everyone. So you want to make sure that you catch things early and respond to them. And you also want to look again at dependency health monitoring. And again, because you may have other dependencies as other agents or other backend systems, you may also want to look at that because it's going to impact what you're doing. So observability is quite large. It is both wide and deep. And one of the things that I wanted to do here at Microsoft, and as you can think about Microsoft, I'm not ashamed to say it. Different teams may do things differently, and you see that all over the place. So part of the conversations that I'm having right now is not just external, trying to find out what people would like to see and what people would like to build, but also within Microsoft, talking to the different teams. Talking to the Copilot Studio team, talking to the Foundry team, talking to the Agent Builder team, talking to the SharePoint team. How are you right now tracking inside your experiences observability? And we even have teams that actually have reporting. How are people reporting these things to you? In what format that is it in? Now, one of the things that I like as a person, as a developer myself, and also what I think will actually work, is the ability to use something that is an open standard. Because if it's an open standard, then everyone can understand the contract, whether they can use whatever language that they want, and it will actually work. So what I'm looking at right now is OpenTelemetry, but that's not necessarily mean what we're going to be doing here at Microsoft. However, even if you're not doing it at Microsoft here in terms of how you're doing it within the different teams, if we can adhere to the open standard, then we can actually, export to that standard and someone can consume it. And basically, as a developer experience, you can think about it this way as well too. If you're using OpenTelemetry, we already have tooling in place like the OpenTelemetry dashboard with Microsoft Aspire that you can either use in a design time experience or even use in a runtime experience, or you can even push it to Azure Monitor and use the Insight Analytics there as well too. So there are a lot of things that are out of the box. We're not building from scratch, and these are things and tools that are already out there already. So the reason why deep observability matters for AI system platform, again, is all around performance. What you see here on the screen, I'm going to do a demo in a few minutes, is actually a trace. And if I step back a little bit, if we're thinking about this in the lens of observability and in the lens of OpenTelemetry, there are really three things that are really key focus areas. One are structured logs. So basically, you're just logging everything as you normally do. And logs are basically a point in time of what happened. This happened, okay? And that's useful when something breaks. When did it break? And I can see where it broke and why it broke. Traces, on the other hand, is a little bit more enhanced than logs. Think about it as, a trace can definitely identify a moment in time, but it also can tell you what happened before and what happened after. So it spans a period of time. And that word span is actually useful because a trace is made up of many spans. So the ability to have observability from end to end means that you're creating these spans along your journey, and then you're creating them into traces as people hop around, basically that user journey, and you're able to see something holistically. Metrics, on the other hand, is the things like about latency that we talked about before. So you have ideas, and this took a period of time. Let me actually advance one slide. Here's actually a double click inside one of those traces that you saw there. And that basically tells you that this call that happened, this narrative search handler that happened, basically made a call. It's called generative AI, which is OpenAI. It did a query into Quadrant. It did an OpenAI chat completion, and it returned some items. And it tells you right here how many milliseconds or how many seconds the entire thing happened. So this is one example of a trace inside that experience that's there. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pause. I'm actually going to do a demo of something. And as I set this demo up, what I want to show you, and we're going to actually do a runtime demo. So we're not going to do a design time, so you can actually see it from a developer. I want you to, because this is brand new, I want you to think about this in the context of a user. So I'm going to bring this over here. Now, as always, I usually build in the open. And because this is an open standard, this is already out there, so you can actually hit this site and actually use it. But I'll tell you the reason why. This doesn't exist right now. And for me to sell it to engineers and sell it to the stakeholders, I want to show them what that vision is. And if you know me for any long time, I only talk about stuff once I've done it and once I can prove it out. So, and I also want to feel the pain of the developer. So this is FHL week at Microsoft Fix Hack Learn, and one of the things I'm doing is actually building this a POC out to actually show what it would look like using another scenario, and say this is how we can do it in terms of how we can do our tools at Microsoft. So what I have here is a community project. You see me do air quotes right there. Usually I frequent breweries and I create something around their menu because a menu is structured data and I can always work with data. So I'm going to actually come here and show you what an Aspire desktop looks like right now. We can all see stuff done at, right now on the East Coast is 11:42. And I did some tests this morning just to make sure. This is actually the screenshot that you saw before. Let me refresh this to make sure that it is still up and running, and it still is. And let me come over here and actually click onto here. The idea here is that we have structured data, and this is structured data. This is a menu of their system. This is coming from a headless, this is a headless CMS, and it has this data. But this is not really useful, except it's telling you what's there. If I come over here and do a search right now, you'll notice that I actually have two types of search. One is called a list search, one is called a narrative search. Let's actually do a list search. Actually, let me do a different one. Let me do this list search right here. Let's do this one. And I'm actually going to come down here and do this and click search. Now, what's happening here, this entire search system runs almost like M365. This search is not a lexical search. It is a semantic search. It literally breaks everything down it takes the user query, creates an embedding for that, and it sends it to Quadrant. And Quadrant basically is a database that has the data plus the embedding, and it's able to come up with this information. So if I like barrel age, it gives me a bunch of stuff here about barrel age. But if I come here as well and click this thumbs up, I can actually see, thank you for your feedback. All right, remember this one, vintage, and thank you for your feedback. All right, if I come back over here now to this, you can see here, actually, I have this trace that happened. If I click into it, and I click into this one right here, I can see what options do you have for barrel age. I can see down here the chat completion. I can see how long it took and so on and so forth. Now, I know I'm running out of time, so I'm actually going to push ahead and actually do a different one. I'm going to do the exact same search, Control C, and change it and refresh the screen and change this to a narrative search because it'll demo a lot better. But what I want you to be thinking about here is, what would you like to see from an observability standpoint? This is me priming your mind for what observability can do and some of the things that are of interest. and some of the things that we would like to bring to the tooling, whether it's a tooling inside Visual Studio Code, whether it's something inside the Microsoft Admin Center, whether it's something inside a portal that you can go to. We want to make sure that we're building what's right for you. So here we go, with the narrative search. You can see now that it looked at everything you saw in the list search. In fact, it brings back the citations off that. I can click in each of these citations and it'll go there. But it's now giving me a narrative of what's there. So now, if I come back over to here, and actually let me go back and do I'll do a thumbs down this time just to show you something. So a thumbs down, right? So I'll come over here. You can actually see now I did a narrative search. Notice this says 7 this time, previously it said 6. I do a view. I can come inside here and I can see the query that I did, right? I see all of this stuff, the quadrant, it tells me what happened inside here. But if I come here, I can see, sorry, this one, I can see, can I click on it? I can see the output, or at least some of the output as well. Where is that thing at? There it is, right. It says we have a refined selection of yada, 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 and you can see that right here as well, right? So we know it's there. Now, what's actually pretty cool is that you also have more observability into here as well too. If I refresh this screen right here, we can see that thumbs down and we can see this here. This is basically Azure Storage Explorer, because you don't want to bring everything inside the login because you don't want to make the login bloated. So here you can actually see how we're also capturing that information. And what is this useful for? Remember we talked about enhancing. Now you can actually do evals. So basically, evals are a way to tell, is this working? Is what the person asking what they're expected? And if they do a thumbs up or a thumbs down, you have that, and you can then use it as a feedback loop into your system in order to make your prompt and your experience better. So this is something I'm working on right now. What I would like to ask everyone to do is, again, if you have not, please go ahead and click on that link. I want you to be a part of that journey here, that with me, to figure out how we do observability here, within our Microsoft 365 ecosystem, and for our developer experiences for Gen.